So today I thought I'd finally do a video on my freshwater stingrays that I've got. Now if you follow me on Instagram, you'd seen that I would have posted a few videos on there, some feeding videos and things like that. I didn't actually film the process of getting these just because it would have been just too much for a stressful ordeal. Going there, picking them up, I wanted to get them home as soon as possible, just because I don't think stingrays travel that well, unless they're properly packaged, things like that, they don't travel well. So I just wanted to get them home, get them in the pond, get them sorted as soon as possible. So I've probably had these over, I want to say around a month now. I was going to do an update a little bit sooner, but I just wanted to make sure that they settled in well. I wanted to make sure I could get them feeding, get them nice and chunky, and sort of document a little bit along the way. Now I've not got any real footage that I've got to show. It's basically the only stuff that I've got on my Instagram. So I thought I'd be able to do as much as I can today. Now I was hoping this was going to be like a nice, cheerful sort of showing. The female's just coming up now because I am about to feed. And it's not all bad. It's one of them things that does happen in the hobby. She's starving. So yeah, let me get into it. So basically I've got a male and a female black diamond stingray. I've also got a female Matoro stingray. I've shown her on my channel quite a few times now. And as I've found out from the people that I bought the stingrays from, they are a breeding pair. The female has produced pups before, so I thought that's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. It means that if I do get them, there's a chance that I could have some pups in the future, which is the whole idea of buying them. Now stingray breeding, it can be quite a dangerous game. It can be a little bit stressful for the females. And through all the research that I've done and people that I've spoken to that do breed them, there can be some horror stories, and there are ways to go around it to sort of stop it from happening, but yeah, sometimes things just happen. Now these guys have been actively breeding for me. I have seen sperm floating around in the pond. I didn't get on camera just because at the time I didn't really know what it was. Once I fished it out and sort of did a bit of research, by the time I found out what it was, I'd already chucked it away. But I believe they are breeding, and there's, after seeing the sperm and seeing the sort of damage that's happened to the female, I can see that yeah, they are actually active, which is a good sign. But again, it is one of them things. It is a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. Now the male has also sustained a little bit of damage. Again, I'm not going to be able to get this on camera just because the pond, it doesn't have a window at the front. But when he comes up and feeds every now and again, just like sort of on the side of his mouth there, he has got like a red mark. Now looking at the female, looking at her barb, normally the barbs on these guys, they are completely black, and that's because they are coated in like it's almost like a skin sort of membrane just to cover them. And I think that's where a lot of the venom or bacteria, if you like, sort of is stored on that layer. And one of her barbs is completely clean. You can see that it's been, all of that stuff has just been shredded off. And I think what's happened is during breeding, again, as I understand it, the males will often tip the females upside down and breed them that way, just so it's easier for them to gain access, I guess. And what I think's happened is in that process, she's sort of flipped over, used her tail to get him off, and she has barbed him in the side. Now there's definitely not a barb in him. I've tried to check it as best I can without getting him out and causing a load of stress. When he does up and feed, I sort of try and tip him over slightly, and yeah, I can't see anything there, and it doesn't look like the barb has snapped off. I can see the barb on her is fully intact, and the new barb she's got coming through is still covered in like that black velvet stuff. So yeah, I know there's no barb in him. But what's happened is on her disc, she has got a bit of a bite mark taken out of her disc, and again, that is fairly normal with stingrays. They do nip at each other. They do get fed heavily in this pond, so I don't think it's through an aggression or a hunger type thing. I think it is purely down to breeding. And the other reason for that is because I've got the other female stingray in here. She is only young. She's not of breeding age yet, but she hasn't got any damage to her whatsoever. So again, yeah, I don't think it is down to feeding or anything like that. I think it's purely down to breeding. So yeah, with her, she has got that chunk taken out of her disc, and also it is, you can see it on the camera, but without getting her out of the water and getting an up close shot, you can see she has got that large bite mark over her eye. She's got a few little nips around the disc as well. Now when she comes up, she does come up still. She is feeding by hand, which is brilliant. I try and get a close look at the eye, and I don't know if she's sort of drawn the eye in, because stingrays, they can retract their eyes slightly. I don't know if she's retracted it just because it is damaged, or if he has actually done damage to the actual eye, the eyeball itself. So I'm going to give it time. I am going to look at trying to find a large basket, or I'll probably end up making one just because that's what I end up doing, but I will try and find a basket of some sort to put in here, just so I can separate the male from the female for now, just so it gives her a bit of time to sort of heal up. And she's still eating, so she's still gaining weight, which is good, but yeah, it's just sort of give her a bit of a rest basically. But other than that, they've been doing absolutely fantastic in this pond. I will give you a little look at the filtration that I've got outside. Out there, it's very basic at the minute. I'm still working out on what I want to do filtration wise, how I want it to all work, but for now it's doing the job, but I'll come to that in a minute. So I'm going to feed them now, and then once I've fed them, I'm going to show you how I sort of do my water changes, things that I add to the pond just to make the water safe. And yeah, I can see them, they're getting a little bit excited just because I did put a little bit of food in there, so they are starting to scoot around, they are trying to find the food. The female is literally coming up right now. Again, they're very friendly, they do come up, which is nice. That's what I like from my animals. I like sort of my animals to be engaged and get involved with me, just because I feel like it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I'm just trying to have a look at her right now while she comes up, but as she comes up I'll try and get it on camera. If anybody has got experience with stingrays and they've had something happen like this before, then I would appreciate any feedback that you've got. Now I've currently got the return pump and the oxygen pump turned off, just because the oxygen pump creates loads of bubbles, so it makes the water quite hard to see through. And a return pump, as it goes to the overflow in the back there, it does make quite a lot of noise. So I've just turned it off for now. And in fact, I'm going to do a water change straight after. I normally turn all that off anyway. But if you've not seen this pond before, so this is the pond that I've built. It's 6 foot long, it's just under 4 foot wide, and it is probably getting on for about 4 foot high. So it's a decent sized pond. I think the actual literage of this pond works out to be about 1,500 litres of water when it's completely filled. And then outside where I've got it's almost like a sump basically, that holds 455 litres as well, so it's getting on for around 2,000 litres. Where I've got all these snake tubs up here, they are going to go eventually, and I do plan on putting a big 6 foot by 2.5 by 2.5 foot tank up here. That's going to be linked to this system, so I'll have a pump that sort of runs up here over, and that's going to go into the tank, and then the overflow will go straight through into the filtration that I've already got. So that's just going to add extra volume to the pond, which is going to help make it a lot more stable, and it does mean that I've got somewhere that I can put males, baby pups and things like that in, just to keep them all separate. So this is the female. So they're lovely stingrays, they're huge. Look how clear that water is. It is literally crystal clear, but this is perfect. As she's coming up, I'm going to try and zoom in and focus on that eye, but you can see she's got a fair old chunk taken out of that eye. And again, it's very hard to try and see the eye just because she is moving, the water's moving, but you can see the eye is not sort of extended out, it is retracted a little bit. So yeah, it's something I need to keep an eye on. Like I said, I do my water changes weekly. I drain this pond halfway down, fill it up every week, so I know the water quality is going to be spot on. And again, when you see the filtration, you'll see how over the board I've gone basically, just because I knew I wanted to get these guys, and I wanted to make sure the water was perfect. But you can see there as well, that's the little chunk out of her disc. But again, that is normal. She's got some nibbles. A lot of this around the edge of her disc, a lot of that is actually sand. I've got very, very fine sand in here that does kick up, but a lot of that is sand, but she does have a few little nibble marks around her. This is the male. I kind of like the contrast. The female, she has quite a lot of spot in the marking. The male, he hasn't got as much, and I quite like that. I might even try and line breed that to try and get even less markings. And who knows, maybe in the future I could even get a pure black stingray. That'd be amazing. But yeah, this is my Maturo stingray that I've got. She's probably getting on for about, I want to say nearly, I don't even know now, 2.5 years maybe. I've had her, so she's very slow growing. From what I heard, I thought Matoro stingrays would be quite a fast growing species. Again, these guys get fed every single day. I probably could feed them twice a day, but I don't want to overfeed them. I don't want them to get too much weight on. Basically, I want to try and keep them trim and healthy if I can. But yeah, she's very slow growing, but again, she's doing absolutely fine. You can see she's not got any marks on her at all. Her disc is absolutely pristine. But yeah, she's slowly getting there. But yeah, look how clear. Like I said, this pond's almost 4 foot deep. This isn't the best camera in the world. It's just a standard lens that comes with the camera, and you can see how crystal clear that water is. So yeah, at least I know I'm doing something right. But what I'm doing is now I'm going to start introducing a little bit of food. So this is what I'm going to be feeding them today. They literally feed better than me. I've got some calamari, I've got some king prawns, I've got mussels. Yeah, they're going to absolutely destroy this lot, and there's a fair amount in there. I think this is like a 16 ounce deli cup, and it's pretty much half full. So, but there's a lot of food in there. I do like to cut it up small, just because I like to scatter it around the pond, just so that I know that everybody is definitely getting food. I like to try and entice them up first, feed them by hand, just because it's nice to get them up close. You can have a proper good look at them. And plus, I just find it more fun. Now, I am going to get absolutely soaked. This guy, he's very, I don't know how to say it. He gets very excitable, basically. He pretty much dolphin dives out of the water. This is like a 4-inch. This is like 4x2. When he comes out, his disc, edge of his disc, basically comes to here. So he does fly out of the water at times, and sometimes he sort of overshoots it, flies out of the side, and ends up flipping on his back, which is always a bit worrying because his barb does fly around a bit. But I do hand feed them. I am careful when I hand feed them, because I know if I get stuck by one of these guys, it's not going to be the best day out for me. But yeah, I'll start introducing a little bit of food, and you'll see how rampant they start getting. Now, I always cut up a bit of food and sort of sprinkle it in there for the fish, because I do like to make sure that they feed. But yeah, that's sort of, once the stingrays start to get that scent in the water, they start zipping around. You can see they start pouncing each other, just because they want to make sure they steal the food from the others. You can see the male's very food aggressive. As soon as he knows there's food, you can see he comes right out of the water. And the way I feed is I sort of pinch the food between my 2 fingers, and then I sort of place it on the side there, keep my hand nice and flat, and that way I don't have to worry about the stingray sort of trying to get me. It sort of keeps my hand out of the way, but you can hear the splashing noises. You can see how agitated the water gets. This guy's just an incredible feeder. So as he comes up, he will sense the food. As you can see there, I didn't actually realise, and there's water on the lens, I didn't actually realise how powerful these animals were. When they suction onto the side of the pond, you can hear like a thumping noise almost, where they suction on. You can see how much they jump out. But I need to concentrate while I'm feeding them, just because I do need to keep an eye on their barbs and things like that. If he suddenly spins round for whatever reason, I do need to be careful. But yeah, it's amazing how much power these stingrays have. And these black diamonds, they're not particularly huge. There are some species of stingrays like the Matoro, they are going to get a lot bigger. But yeah, it's incredible how much power they have, how fast they can actually move as well. So I am always careful. I never put my hands fully in the pond when these guys are floating around, just because I just don't want to get the risk of getting barbed, basically. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to try and get them to come up, feed from my hand a couple of times, just to make sure they are actually all feeding, and then I'll cut all this food up over here, and I'll make sure they all get a good decent feed. So as I said, the male, he's super aggressive, but it's good to see, because I do believe they weren't fed a great deal where they were previously, and since having them, I've actually physically seen them grow in size. It is crazy what decent food and regular feeding can actually do to these animals. Here he is again. Now, he's aggressive when he feeds. He's always been aggressive, but when the female comes up, the big female and the other little female Matoro, they're super gentle. They're almost shy, if you like. So when she comes up, she literally just has like a little nibble. Same with the other little female over there. But yeah, this guy he's just an absolute beast. So the small female, she's always fed by hand since I had her. I've always tried to get her to come up and feed. She's a little bit more cautious now that these two are in there, but again, once I chuck a load of food in, she just continuously eats. And yeah, I'm hoping that eventually, once she does get up to size, I can start breeding the male with her. Hopefully I can get some black diamond Matoro crosses, just because I want to see what they look like. I've seen pictures and I've seen videos, but again, with these stingrays, some people do sort of breed them and they say they've got a bit of this and they've got a bit of that in, and I don't really trust that. I know that these two are pure black diamonds. I was a little bit iffy about her just because of the amount of pattern that she's got in her. I didn't know if she had a little bit of something else, but I'm pretty sure he is a pure black diamond anyway. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if these do have pups, what the pups come out and look like, and then hopefully in the future we'll get some of the crosses there. So I don't want this to go on too long, so I'm not going to wait for them all to come up and feed, but as you can see, I've got everything chopped up. So I've got the king prawns, the mussels, the calamari. There's quite a lot there. These guys could probably eat this 2-3 times over, just because they are quite big animals. But again, like I said, I don't like to overfeed them, just because I just think it's not healthy to overfeed them. If you think in the wild, they're not going to be getting a massive meal every single day at the same time, are they? So sometimes I'll feed them quite heavy, sometimes I'll feed them light. I do feed them some little white baits as well. I do need to get them back in the freezer because I haven't got any now, I've run out. But I do like to keep their diet varied. But again, yeah, I think if you keep their diet mixed up, keep feeding them at different times, different amounts, I think it is just more healthy for them. So now that I've got this carp, I'm just going to spread this all over the pond just to make sure there's a nice spread, and it just ensures that all of them are going to get food. They can find their little patch where they want to feed. They're not going to fight over the food. And it gives the fish in here as well a chance to have a little nibble on something, because I guarantee after about 2 or 3 minutes everything in here is going to be completely gone. So you can see all the food scattered along the bottom there. You can see my little black shark, he's having a good old munch. The 2 green terriers, wherever they are, they've normally got a mouthful of food and they just hover on the side having a little feed on that. But yeah, so there's a nice big spread, and honestly these guys are just absolute hoovers. They'll just go through and demolish this, yeah, like I said, in probably about 2 minutes. What I'm going to do is, while these are eating, I want to make sure they fully clear all this first before I start doing the water change. That way it gives them a chance to give all the food a good chew, and as they're chewing they do expel a lot of like dust and debris from the food. So I like to do a water change after I've fed. So while they're eating all this, I'm going to quickly take you outside so I can show you the sump. I'm going to give you just a very quick look at that, just because it's not ideal at the minute, but it's doing the job. That's the main thing. So before I do take you outside and show you, I just want to quickly show you these. So these are some of the barbs that I've actually been collecting from the pond. Now I'm sure there's a few more. Because this sand is so fine, they probably just sink straight into the sand because these guys move around a lot. But yeah, these are some of the barbs that I've caught so far. So I believe these 2 small ones, these are from my little Matoro that I've got. You can see as she grows, the barbs are slowly getting bigger. And I believe this one is from the male. Only because I've seen the barb on the female, they look a lot bigger than this. They are quite wide. But yeah, these are really exciting to find. I love finding, but I just wanted to show you the sort of size of them. So that's the size of them compared to my finger. Now you can imagine if one of these goes into your hand, it is going to do a lot of damage. I probably can't zoom in because this camera isn't ideal, but you can probably just make out the serrations in them. I will put up a picture of one that I think it was this small one that I found actually. I sort of zoomed in on the serrations and I can show you it. Once one of these goes in, it is going to be painful to remove. So that's why if you do have these, you see a lot of people free handling them and things like that. It's not a great idea to do that. A lot of the time when they do free hand them, they do snip the barbs off. Again, that's not necessarily a bad idea. I would do that with my guys, but it's a case of having to net them out, get them in a tub, and then try and nip the barbs off. It can be quite dangerous, especially if they start flicking their tails around, things like that. And I think it does just cause a lot of stress on the animals as well. So for now, until I see anything dangerous actually happening, I'm probably just going to leave them and just let them shed the barbs as they normally do. And plus, it's always cool to find these as a little thing to keep. Once I do start getting an influx of these, I probably will start giving these away to people, just because they are quite cool to have. It's almost like having shark's teeth. So this is the filtration that I've got outside. You can see I've got a ton of live rock there. Well, it's not live anymore, but it was live. And then underneath that, that is just a rubbish bin, and that is just full of ceramic media that I've got cycling still, just because you can never have too much media. So this is my setup that I've got me. You can see the overflow in the pond leads to this pipe. This pipe then goes into this little poly box that I've got in a minute. I'm using this just because it helps keep it insulated in the winter basically. Now it's not running fully yet just because I've got all the pumps turned off. That's just the UV steriliser. You can see I've got some K1 media in there, and I use that just as my initial stage of filtration basically. I still need to change this. I do want to get a larger poly box so I can put more media in there, but for now it's doing the job, and I do need to make this lid fit around that just to help with some of the evaporation and to keep the heat in. So yeah, that pipe you can see going in top, that's my UV steriliser. It's a 55 watt steriliser I've got. A lot of people kept telling me you need something bigger, but to be honest, this does up to, well, on the tin it says 30,000 litres. I'd probably say half that, because they always overrate things, as you know, with pumps and things like that. So 15,000 litres, that's still doing this pond sort of like 10 times over almost. So I think that's fine for this sort of size pond. And the other pipe goes in here just to the end, and that's where my pump feeds the water through, and it goes back into here just so it goes through the filtration stage again. This is my return pipe that goes through that wall and then pops out the other side, and then in here you can see the water is literally filled to the brim. I do know roughly how much water to put in here. When the ponds full, I gauge by this how much water I need to go up by, and it's enough just to cover the ceramic media that you can see that's in there. I'm not going to lift this up just because it's got all that rest in it now. Like I said, I will do a proper in-depth video on this. Yeah, you can see I've got little tubes of ceramic media in there, and they literally go from about here all the way up to that line there. So all of that from top to bottom is just solid media, all ceramic tubes. And then I do have a little air pump on here. There's one stone here, and then there's one air stone that goes sort of in the middle, and that's just to keep all this water moving. Now it's kind of like a sump setup, but I don't have any baffles in there, so that's why I've put the air pumps in there, just because I was getting a little bit of stagnant water. There was no movement on the top, so I've put them in there just to keep the water circulating around basically, so there's no dead spots. Now under this box there is a hole, and that hole goes to my sponge that I've got, my sponge filters. You can see I have 3D printed a little grate there, so you can see all the little holes there. I've 3D printed that, and that's just what keeps all the media from flowing out. And then again underneath here you can't see, but there is like a storage tub that I use, and that's what I've put all my sponges in. I've got 3 different grades of sponge, and I do intend to put a layer of filter floss on top of that as well at some point, but I do need to adjust it, because where this water flows through here it's just a solid jet hitting one spot. I need to probably take a lid from that storage tub, drill loads of holes in just so it sort of dissipates that water evenly over those sponges. But again, that's something I'm going to do further down the line. But yeah, this is just something that's basic for now. I have sort of boxed this big tub in as well with insulation, because this is in the outside part of my garage. It's not insulated out here, so I need to try and keep the heat in as best I can on this. But yeah, that's just a very brief look at this. Once I've got this UV mounted on the wall and I've got all the wires tidied up and this sorted, I'll do a proper in-depth video. I do want to try and put baffles in this as well at some point, just so I don't have to worry about putting an air stone in there. But for now it's doing the job. The water's perfect, all my water tests come back pretty much 0. So yeah, I'm happy with the way it is right now. So they've pretty much all calmed down now. You can see there's not a lot of movement. They'll shimmy around a little bit, but yeah, I would say they're basically full now. You can see this guy, he's calmed right down. He's hardly moving, so they are absolutely stuffed. There is a little bit of food left on the bottom. This was quite a heavy feeding day, to be fair. I probably don't normally feed that much food, so you can see there are some scraps in the bottom. I'm not going to worry about taking them out. I am just going to leave them in there. You can see the big female just move forward to grab another piece there. I will just leave them in there, and either the fish will finish them off, they'll sort of have a little scoot around and have a bit, or the rays will just pick it off. But you can see the water now. It looks crystal clear on camera, but it is a little bit murky. I don't know if you can pick this up, but if you can see all them little white specks floating around just against the side of the pond. Once the camera focuses, those are just bits of debris, and I think that's mainly from the mussels. I'm not a huge fan of feeding mussels just because they are quite a messy food. They do tend to break apart, and these guys scatter particles everywhere. But I do like to feed them because I think they are quite a high source in protein for these guys. But yeah, now that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the hose out. I'm going to start draining this down. Once that's drained about halfway, I'll then start filling it up. I've just used water straight from the tap. I've never worried about using RO water. I've never used it for this pond. I've had my fish tank upstairs for over 10 years now. I've never used RO water for that. I've always just mixed the water straight with salt straight from the tap. I do add dechlorinator in. This is the stuff that I tend to use by API, so it's a stress coat. You can use it to make tap water safe. It also helps sort of protect the slime coat and stuff of the fish and reduce stress and things like that. And this is what I always use. Now I normally put this in straight away, just so that once it's in there, as the water pours in, it's all mixing around. I still have the aerator going, so that helps like turn the water around. And I just think it slowly mixes in that way and treats the water as it goes. Now I always drain the pond down about halfway. I know that that's around 400 litres or so, and then all you've got to do is you just read the directions on the back and it tells you how much to put in. So I know I have to put around 4 caps in. I'll normally put about 4.5 just to be sure. I don't think you can overdo it with this stuff, to be fair. I think a little bit extra is not going to hurt, is it? And I've always done it that way and I've never had any issues. So I'm going to add that in now, let this fill up, and then oh, I haven't seen him for a while. Did you just see that? There he goes, there he goes. So this is a tiny little fire eel that I've got in my pond. How he's not been eaten yet, I do not know. I had him in a little basket floating around in the pond, and then one day he just disappeared. So he now lives in here. Sometimes he goes down the overflow over there and gets into the filtration, and he sort of comes out as and when, as a little scooch around. But I haven't actually seen him for probably 3 weeks now. I did think he'd been eaten by one of the stingrays, but obviously he's not. He's doing fine. Yeah, he's probably come out for a little munch. That's why I've left these tubes in here. One, because it gives the fish somewhere to hide, so the stingrays don't bother them too much. And plus, if the eel wants to come out and hide, he can. That was a bit of a shock. But anyway, I'm going to get the stress coat in, let this fill up, and then we'll turn all the filtration back on. Now you can see I get a lot of this sort of build up around the outside of the pond. I'm guessing that's probably a bit of lime scale and other stuff that comes out of the tap, and whatever I feed them during the week sort of gets pushed up onto the side and collects. So I'm going to go around with a little damp cloth as well. Always give that a little wipe just to get rid of it, because one, it doesn't look good. I don't think it's particularly harmful to the pond, but it just doesn't look good anyway. So I'm going to wipe all that off. You can see there's a little bit along here as well. He's still coming up. Again, I don't think he's hungry. They just like to chill out along the top. He's probably got that flow of fresh water coming in as well, so he's probably enjoying that. Just because the weather recently has been so hot, the cool water going in is probably going to be quite nice for them. You can see even the female down there, she's getting a little bit active as well. With this main pump turned off, there's not a lot of flow, so again, this is probably oxygenating the water, creating some flow and cooling it down for them at the same time. So it's an all-in-one really. But yeah, I'm going to clean all this off as well, and by the time I've done that, hopefully this will be filled up and we can get it all back up and running. And I've got one of the lids down just so you can see the lids. You haven't seen them, they're custom sliding lids that come up and go underneath. They sort of sit underneath like that. Really good. But yeah, that's the pond done. It's a little bit murky, as you can see. I mean on camera it looks crystal clear, but in person it is a little bit murky, so it will clear up even more. I'm not going to clean the sponges on this one today. I normally do the sponges once a month. They don't really collect a lot of crap, to be honest. These guys do produce a lot of waste, but when I've cleaned the filter sponges before, there's not been a lot of stuff in there, so I'll sort of leave it for around a month. I will check it every now and then if there is a lot of detritus and stuff like that in there. I will go in there and give them a quick clean, but I normally only really clean the top 1, 2 max. if I have to. But other than that, I'll normally clean them once a month. So I'll probably do that next weekend. So if I do get a chance to do that next weekend, I'll probably do a little video on it, just show you how I clean all the filters. It means I do have to take all the sump and stuff apart, so you will be able to see what's going on inside and things like that. So yeah, but that's pretty much this pond maintenance done. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. That's a little insight of what I do of this pond. I am filming alongside this with the fish tank upstairs in my room, so you'll probably see that video probably 3 or 4 days after this one gets posted. If you're looking at this behind me, so some people have been asking about this is my incubator that I'm now going to be using for my reptiles, my snakes and things like that. As you can see, I've got 2 clutches in there at the minute. This is temporary. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay with this. This is just like that corrugated plastic that you get. I quite like it. I think it looks quite nice rather than having the clear glass, but it does mean you can't see into it, so I might upgrade this to actual glass in the future. But for now, it's all up and running. I will do a proper video on this. I still want to finish this off. You can see I've still got to do some fascias and things like that around the sides. These runners, I do intend on replacing them at some point, but that's going to be it once all the eggs and stuff are all completely done. But yeah, it's all up and running. I've got a fan that's like about here balanced at the minute. I do need to get that mounted up at the top at some point. But other than that, yeah, the incubator's running. It's holding temperatures perfectly. This room's 84 degrees roughly all year round anyway. I've keep checking the thermostat and it's hardly clicking on, and this is sat between 88 and 90, so it's not too bad at all. It's doing really well. The soil cable that I've got in there that I use as my heating element, that's working really well. Yeah, I can't fault it. It's pretty much bang on, and it's nice and thin. It fits the area that I've got. So the whole thing of this room is I am tight for space. This is literally just a garage that I use, and with all the stuff that I want to do, I am limited massively. So I just try and use the space as well as I can, basically. I used to have the incubator that was perched on this cabinet top right here, and it was all right, but it was just bulky. It stuck out really far. It wasn't good in that sense. But now I've got this. I think I can fit up to 10 clutches. I'm never going to be doing more than 10 clutches. I think this year I'm probably doing 4, maybe 5 at max. But yeah, I can probably fit 10. Probably squeeze a couple in the bottom, maybe 12 at a push if I needed to. And I've left some space at the top there, just because I'm going to be breeding some other different types of snakes. I've got bull snakes, I've got Mexican black kings, and so I know they don't like silly high temperatures, so I'm probably going to be putting those on top there. So that's why I've got some space at the top up there, which you probably can't see, but yeah, there's some space there. Those things up there, those are my custom 3D printed hatchling tubs that I was working on. I don't know if I'm going to continue with them, but yeah, so this video's probably gone on long enough, so I'm going to call it there. But yeah, follow me for the journey if you want to see how the stingrays get on. I am looking at getting more stingrays. I probably might try and get another black diamond female if I can. And there's obviously there's loads of different stingrays you can get, but I do want to try and get as many of them as possible. But yeah, I'm pretty sure these are breeding as well, so hopefully in the future I'm going to get pups so I can give you updates. And yeah, the babies are adorable. They come out so small, they're so cute. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. But other than that, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.